Hello, 안녕하세요. First, I want to thank Seed for Hope and those that funded for the storytelling. I think this is very helpful to share our story, our lived experience, and 厲害啊，cho một cái cỡ này nhỏ and sống hiểu lý cho nên rốt tình em có mồm lông cho nên là một cậu yêu nên nhỏ. What inspired me to tell my story is also similar to that, where I wanted to, share from my experience, from what I went through, to, I wouldn't say inspire, but, when you're going through the midst of divorce or just going through a toxic relationship, unhealthy behaviors and patterns and all of that leading to divorce and afterwards, that process overall is very, very hard and something that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And unfortunately, some of us go through, and a part of that piece is very hard that not everybody want to go through it, where they rather stay in their unhealthy relationship, if that makes sense. For instance, folks who are in a controlling relationship or domestic violence or just not feeling that loved anymore decides to stay because, when you think of and financially, when you're by yourself too, you don't want to go through that, right? And to be shamed from your family and the community, nobody wants to go through that. So I get it to why they want to, or I wouldn't say want to, but they're left to just stay in a situation that they don't want to, and the whole decide to I didn't want that life. Honestly, if I don't have my kids, everyone's different, but I'm just going to tell my story. If I didn't have my kids, then I probably would be in that situation too. Because I didn't want my children, my kids to go through what I'm going through, is to why it also motivated me to move forward with my life and get out of that situation, right? So I wanted to share my story to help motivate those who are in similar situations. This is not to encourage you to leave and be a divorcee, but to really, really think about it. What do you want? Do you want this? Are you okay with living this lifestyle for the rest of your life? Are you okay with your children seeing you in this light, right? I didn't want my kids to go through what I'm going through, so that's also, I would say, the number one reason why, and also a motivator for me to keep going. For instance, I've gone through domestic violence in my previous marriage. My baby daddies used drugs. They were an alcoholic. And I would say the way how they're brought up, they just didn't know how to treat a woman right, as how they should be. I would say it goes both ways. It's both of us. I didn't know how to be patient with them. And I mean, how do I put this? We are not taught of what addiction means. And we were just taught to, right? And to be patient and pretty much just let them do whatever. So I didn't like that lifestyle, and I just felt like I lost myself in the midst of trying to in the midst of just trying to start a family, right? Being a nya, being a daughter, being a wife, and being a mother. At the end of the day, I lost myself. So when I think about all of that, and I think about if my kids were to ever go through that, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't want that for them. It will hurt me so much that I was the one that didn't do anything and allowed that to happen to my children, So that was my motivator to get out of a situation that I had no control anymore. When I say I have no control, not in a way where I'm controlling my husband at that time, but of course you cannot control the other party, right? And you can only control yourself, how you feel and how you react, how you respond and all of that, right? You cannot control them or tell them what to do. You cannot tell them to stay home and help you watch the kids, spend family time together. You cannot tell them to just, yes, go hang out with your friends and come back, you know. Moshi, Laje, Takatapunyu, and Mununje, and playing it, whatever, and come back home. Yes, you can do all of that, but at the end of the day, you cannot control them. You know, you cannot control them. So while being in that marriage, that relationship, I lost myself. I was not myself. I didn't like that. And if I'm enabling that, I'm allowing it, it's telling my kids that that's normal, that's okay, and they can be treated that way too. No, I don't want my kids to be treated that way. So I would say that's the number one motivator for me to move forward with my divorce and to break that cycle, right? So I would say that inspired me to tell my story because I see that in our Hmong community. It's very hard. And folks who come and talk to me, I don't encourage them to divorce. I always tell them, you know, do you still love your partner, your husband, or your wife? And if everything is to be perfect the way how you want it to be, do you still love them? You know, if money is a barrier, what if that is fixed? You know, will you still be with them? That kind of thing. And if the answer is yes, then do your best to, you know, work together as long as they're still trying, right? But you to trying now, then you should and move on too. So my ex-husband, they didn't want to try anymore. You know, everyone's situation is different, but that was mine where it did help me to move on. However I was treated, I didn't want my kids to go through that experience too. The main characters in my stories are me and my children. I'm alive today because of my kids. Mental health plays a huge part to everything. And I would say my whole family, you know, we all go through mental health. My uncle back in Thailand, I believe, he committed suicide because, that's another story, but let's just say there's history of mental health in my family. Growing up, I had a lot of experiences relating to mental health. There was a time where when I had postpartum depression, I attempted suicide because my partner at that time left to go fishing when I believe I was just like a month, not even two, delivery, postpartum, and he left. Matter of fact, it might have been like within a month or so, right? And I needed him there mentally, physically, but he just up and left and didn't care of how he felt. Typically, it is expected of the husband, the partner, to take care of you, right? At least I would say for some time, but I didn't have that. I didn't have that where I think that's also a factor to how I got postpartum depression. I just had the baby blues, you know. Sometimes when I'm just sitting there, I just start crying for no reason, right? And all of the symptoms of postpartum depression I had, and that was where I attempted. I was stupid, yes, and at that time it was just me and my kids, and child protection got involved. I did attempted where I survived, fortunately. It really opened my eyes when I was at the hospital and the nurse was like, why? Who cares if my partner doesn't care about me? My children does. My children need me. And that was when I realized that, my children are my everything. And I need to live on for my children. So the CPS case did drop because, I did took medications. My hormones was all over because, like I said before, I would just have baby blues. I would just be there and just start crying for no reason. That was just how bad my postpartum depression was, where I had to be on medication to manage and balance my hormones. So yeah, I would say the main characters are me and my children because I wouldn't be here today. Everything that I do today now is because of my children. My advocacy for my children's and, just advocating for their health and well-being. I have 2 kiddos that have IEP, so just really advocating for being their voice because they're still very young. I'm a single mother of 4 children ranging from kindergarten to 5th grade. So really all that I do is for them. They are the future generations. So all that I'm, advocating the DEI stuff with the work that I do is to leave some of my footprint, do some of the healing work where my children don't have to repeat what I'm repeating, if that makes sense. I do see my trauma in my kids. Growing up, all that I've gone through, I see it in my kids. So I do teach them to use their voice, to advocate for themselves, and to be vocal. I would say the central conflict or challenge I face would be mental health. Everything that revolving mental health, having patience, just the anger, hormones, and along that is the culture expectations of a daughter, and a mother, right? So I have 2 baby daddies. For my first one, I have 3 children with him. My second one, when I went to marry him, his relatives was like, yeah, why didn't you leave your kids to their dad? Typically, when you remarry, right, and when you have kids, they want you to leave your kids behind. I've discovered that, and I tell them no. My children is my life. I didn't tell them of me committing suicide, but when I attempted suicide, I was ready to just end my life. Fortunately, I am still alive because I know now, and then too, because the nurse reminded me that I'm still here because of my children. Now, their dad finally confirmed that he doesn't want anything to do with me or his kids anymore. I'm like, I don't need you to do anything with me, We're not together anymore, but I need you to just be a dad to his kids. But, that's what he wants. And he wants me to respect his wishes, so I'm going to just do that. But even before, because he has never given them the attention. That was also a huge factor to what motivated me to move forward with a divorce for both my baby daddies, because they never given genuine love and attention to their children. And I know that nobody will love my children as much as I love them. And chỉ mong đến từ lúc có cho mình nhỏ cha In this case, me, right? My support system while I was going through my divorce was pretty much myself, my children, my family and my friends, and my community. If I did not have that, I wouldn't be able to move on and move forward with the divorce. I probably would have been stuck in a relationship that I was not happy in. I was not the typical Hmong woman that like you you to husband and to pretty much to listen and obey, right? I was not that typical Hmong woman. When they say to una or shendena, I didn't understand it because at the end of the day, I was abused, I was neglected mentally, emotionally, and it turned out to be physically abused. I didn't understand the word "u" because I felt like it was taken from me of who I am if I was to listen to my husband, give sex when I didn't want to have sex. I know nowadays marriage rape is not as common as before, but yeah, that was something that happened. I had to fight back marriage rape. Otherwise, I would have gotten pregnant again. Right after I gave birth to my fourth baby, my ex-husband wanted to have sex again. I'm like, no. It went on, and then it was like 2 weeks after he did eventually rape me. It is what it is, right? I learned a lot from my experience, but not everyone is like me. But I can tell you that I am content where I'm at right now. I'm at peace. I'm so happy that I'm out of my relationships in the past, my marriage in the past, because it was very unhealthy. Yes, they did help to take care of the kids a little bit, but it was more of like an exchange thing. I felt like a prostitute in a way where in order for my kids to be taken care of, in order for the house to be clean, or to do what I want with family time and all of that, or to even spend time with them, with my ex-husbands, exchange for sex, right? There was many things that I've learned to really value myself, love myself, know my worth. I didn't know my worth to allow all of that to happen. Liko Haya, at the beginning, Gwing tried to be like a good person, right? Do a like the usual and you have to pay in that relationship. I've tried my best to be a good nya and a good daughter, but you know, think that my you have to partner niya. And you can't fix that. So my first baby daddy, I did call the cops on him because he ended up assaulting me. I was about 4 months pregnant with my second baby. Long story with that. I'm not going to go in detail, but at the end of the day, I have called the cops on him because he has threatened to kill me. He was going to lock me up. He was just hitting me nonstop because I ended up spending his money that he has planned for fishing gears. And I used the money to pay bills and buy clothes for his son. This is very hard, and I know that a lot of people do not share their stories because if I share the details of what happened, if I share what he did to me, they're gonna hear this recording, right? And they're gonna come after me. So a lot of people do not speak up about their stories because of these things. Because more, right? And if you go the Hmong Gijai route, you try blow you or whatever, right? But I'm at the point of my life where I'm not afraid of that because this is my truth. He's probably going around telling people lies about me. And I can say that because he has done that to his own kids, and they came questioning me. Hey, mom, dad said you did this. Dad said you used his $10,000 to pay for your school. Dad says you locked him up in jail. Oh my gosh. Of course, they're going to make you be the bad person, right? But this is my truth. And I'm not going to go into it, but whatever the reason is, even though whoever's right or wrong, assaulting someone shouldn't be the answer, right? He goes back and forth with saying that I deserved it and then saying that he's sorry. So I don't even know what it is, but maybe he still thinks that I deserve being assaulted because he's telling his kids that I locked him up. But I didn't know. I was 19. He said he was going to kill me. He was hitting me. He was going to lock me up. He broke the phone, took the phone away from me. At that time, my first baby daddy was controlling, where we only shared one phone, one car. If I was late home, I'm cheating. Anything, really, I'm cheating. It was just very toxic and not healthy. I was in an abusive relationship. I learned. It took me a long time to learn that it was an abusive relationship. Slowly kept me away from my family and friends, right? Where it's just me. I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I called the cops, and now ko tolong bayatia kuhupali on my husband. This is well known because my second baby daddy, my ex-husband, he when I got with him, where we were just dating, and his parents have talked to me about that and made me promise to never call the cops on him. And I did. And because my first baby daddy was controlling to me, I was like in the movies where so my next one, I learned to not do that. So now, right? When my ex-husband tried to control me, gonna control me, control. I was pretty lucky too. I mean, I don't even know where I found these guys, but it happened. It already happened, but I guess that's where I find humor and things, just laughing at my mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. Take it as a lesson learned. Don't dwell on it. Don't call yourself stupid. Yes, I was stupid then, but I learned. I live and learned, and I move on from that, right? I live and learn and move on. Don't dwell on it. So that was one thing, now I can laugh about it and talk about it. Okay, where did I meet all these guys? First one was at Panda Express. Second one was at Cub Foods. But yeah, I didn't care, and being a bandao, being a divorced Hmong woman, you have to not care about what people say or think about you. You really do. Because at the end of the day, who's living your life? It's you. They're not living it for you. So these kind of things, these kind of words, I have to really ingrain it in my head. Because I really struggle with that. Because in our Hmong culture and traditions, it's all about it's all about your fame, your face, and how people look at you, right? Because if you're not of somebody, if you're not of certain personality, nobody wants to hang out with you, right? Nobody wants you in their group. So being Anya and being with my baby daddies, I learned a lot where I don't need to be someone that I'm not to fit in. I lost myself twice being someone I'm not to fit in, to be a nya, to be a sister, right? To be a wife, right? I lost myself. I became someone that I'm not. And after the divorce was when I truly found myself. I found the bubbly me again. I found myself again. And that was like the most amazing gift that that I could ever give myself. Like, I was so happy. This is the person that I know. This is me. And that really inspired me to tell my story and to share with those who are going through the same thing that I went through. I mean, this is just a little bit of what I'm sharing, but never lose yourself being with someone. If you're with someone and then you gotta come back to find yourself. Whether if it's being with them still or divorce. And don't be afraid of divorce. As long as you're happy, and you're yourself, your authentic self. My biggest fears or doubt in this situation, I shared a little bit already, but I would say my biggest one was and that's also why I stayed. But maybe I was lucky in this part too, because there are some fathers who are involved and love their kids to death and will do anything for their kids, right? Unfortunately, my baby daddies are not like that. So that was kind of like a blessing in disguise where it helped me to move on with the divorce and to move forward with life. 小朋友记得去看我小朋友呢，朋友鸟我去 right，那得去看古，听得去看小朋友了，古有鸟我的去呢，那得去啥阿车古听小朋友呢，得去啥了把我们领导有呢，听小朋友呢呀。They're not in a committed relationship. They're not in it for the long run. They're just in it for what will pleasure them, will give them that temporary fulfillment, right? Basically like sex or that short happiness. They're not in it for the long run. So my baby daddies, they didn't work. They were on and off with work. So I was pretty much the breadwinner. And all of that really motivated me to keep going. I didn't want my kids to grow up and asking me, Mom, why did you stay? When dad's like that. And dad, why did you stay? And then instilling that trauma to my kids too. So those were all motivators. My biggest fears was, what will people say? But when I they are fine without their dad. They're fine without their dad. How did I overcome the challenges I faced? I think I kind of shared. Of course, you're dumb and you love your. I love my baby daddies. I'm a person where I just love, right? And I got them like a car, and I got my first one a boat. When you love someone, especially when they're not working too, I just give and give. Where my credit went bad. When I left them, I didn't have money. I had to rebuild my credit from 500 up. I had hope. And and all that, right? So it helped build my resilience. chị yêu ôn nún thâu nún mù chị tòn do cho mình họ biết lo chị tòn tòn do yêu lúc nên họ rồi lên họ chán tu rồi tôi này vậy rồi lên họ cá lần đầu này vậy yêu cho mình họ cá lần đầu theo yêu họ bỏ yêu cho mình luôn chi chỉ rồi lên thâu ina chị yêu life is changing as you just keep moving. So that's something I learned and I want to share. Keep moving. When I attempted suicide, part of the conditions to be off of CPS, child protection, is to go to therapy and do CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And one thing that stuck with me when I went to learn was the quote that they said from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And that really motivated me to this day. I would say my breaking point was when I attempted suicide. Because before that, I kept fighting. I kept begging and fighting for attention from my baby daddy, right? Love me, give me attention, take care of me, talk to me, spend time with me. I realized the more I ask, the more I beg, the more he's just distant from me, right? The more he doesn't want to spend time with me or our kids. And I'm just left mostly, if I'm not working, then left at home to take care of the kids. Because we only had one car or one working car, right? Because the other car didn't work. We were very poor. We were in subsidized housing at that time. How do you want your audience to feel after hearing your story? I want the audience to feel inspired and hopeful and motivated to keep going, to keep trying, and don't lose hope, because I never gave up. Oh, trust me, there's a lot of time that I want to give up. I just want to go back. Maybe it's just easier. But I put my foot down and I stand firm and said no. My second baby daddy, he was a drug addict. I did not know anything about a drug addict or anything until I got with him. He was sober before we had our child together, and I didn't know about relapse or anything or withdrawals and cravings and all that. I didn't know about all of that, but I learned through being with him. Unfortunately, once, I gave birth, he relapsed pretty bad and just was never in the picture. Otherwise, he was active before, before I gave birth. One morning, I had to leave. I didn't want that life anymore. I left to the shelter. And I stayed at the shelter for 10 months. I remember my mother-in-law at that time asked for me to go back. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming back. If I keep going back like that, then they're not going to learn, right? It's been 4 years, almost 5 years that I left, and he's still using. Addiction is very hard. The moment I left was when he said he was going to kill us all. And that was triggering, re-traumatizing for me because my first baby daddy said that. To why I called the cops. And I said I accidentally called the cops because I just wanted to be safe. I also want the audience to feel empowered. I know every story is different. My story is my own and unique to me and my experience. But I also want the audience to feel empowered. I hope my story lifts you up to keep moving forward, to keep swimming. Just keep swimming. You'll get to your destination one day. And I feel that I'm getting close to mine.